First things first, why use Zoom or video conference calls at all? And this goes back to some training from NCI, New Clients Incorporated, the original pioneer in sales and marketing techniques for the accounting profession. My father started the company, but point very simply is that they have a lot of experience hiring and training sales rep. They had fantastic success with their programs over the last 3 decades. And one of the core elements of the success of their clients, well, yes, delegation and leverage of sales. We're going to talk about that on Wednesday. But, direct contact with another human being is the most efficient way to facilitate opportunity, both opportunity in terms of potentially new sales or in new opportunities, as in new sales presentations. So let's back that up just a little bit here, okay? What are we talking about when we say direct contact? Well, right now it's a little hard for us to go and shake hands. My father's techniques were essentially saying the accountant or the sales rep, depending on what layer of the program you were in, would go and present at that person's place of business. Now that's very much a white glove service, right? Someone coming to you, willing to take time out of their day, make the drive, come to you and present. Creates a little bit of reciprocity, does it not? I've talked about that topic a lot, but the idea that if you do something nice for someone, they're willing to do something nice for you in the future, okay? Ideally become a client. However, I don't know if it's the best use of our time to be able to drive around traffic. They're not there, they're busy. It can be not as glamorous as someone who ran this program successfully. It's a little hard, and especially when you throw in COVID, when you throw in civil unrest, when you throw in some things that make maybe shaking hands not as viable. The question is how do we replicate that same type of emotion, that same type of connection that an in-person meeting would allow? And here we are with Zoom. So the idea behind why use Zoom is pretty simple, is that you have more feedback that you're able to receive from your prospective client. Now that I only do sales calls on Zoom now, when I talk on the phone and it's a sales opportunity or even support, I feel kind of lost. I really do, because I can't see you. I can't see you. So how can I possibly gauge how effective my words are, or how effective my coaching or my guidance or whatever it is that I'm talking about? How can I tell? Sure, there's tonality. Sure, there's opportunities to maybe say, ask certain questions that make sure that they're on the same page as you. I get all that. But wouldn't it be easier if you could just look at them and literally read the emotion on their face? And so what I'm trying to bring into the conversation here is the idea that as accountants, you have analytical minds. And for some reason, we tend to highly separate the ability to have emotion or read emotion, most importantly, and use emotion as a tool, as a way to guide ourselves to a sale. For some reason, we separate those things. No, there's no way those two things are compatible. And what I ask you to do is use your ability to analyze a situation, but use it in this context, right? What kind of facial expression is that? It's pretty obvious when you stop there and think about it. It's like, well, he's kind of uncomfortable. But why is he uncomfortable? Is it because my price came out too early? Was it because he didn't like the fact that we didn't offer a guarantee related to, right? You can literally look at my face when I say something and get instant feedback. And the key to being able to be successful with sales, anything, is when you see feedback, when you receive feedback, what do you do with it? Do you just ignore it? Or do you take a minute, reflect on it, understand what's going on with it, and then potentially be able to do better next time or address it right then and there? Hard to do that on the phone. Really hard to do that without the medium that allows you to gauge and analyze someone's emotions and responses, okay? And if we go, I probably should have done C4 sales training today and Zoom tomorrow, because C4 is the process, right? Zoom is the tool. And the person on Wednesday hiring and training a sales rep, is Wednesday that or is it Thursday? I'm not sure off the top of my head. But the point is that all my Dream Firm leaders on today's call, part of Create Your Dream Firm program, they understand what those three things equal, right? People, process, tools. That's how we make more money in less time. And anyone who's gone through the Igniter consultation with me as well knows that as well. So, okay. So ultimately, why use video calls? They give you better feedback. When you have better feedback, you ultimately can make better decisions. It's really that simple. Okay. So better feedback leads to better decisions. Now let's talk about how to use Zoom to your advantage, right? It's one thing to say, okay, yeah, I could see, Tyler, how being able to read facial expressions matters. But there's other things we can read in the context of the discussion as well, right? There's a number of things that we can ultimately apply to our understanding and in our analysis. Let's think about that for a second, right? When you get onto a call with someone, I hate to say it, but it's painfully true. You'll make a snap judgment almost immediately. As soon as you see them, as soon as you see their background, as soon as you see what's going on, you're going to make some internal decisions. It's the way humans work, whether it should happen or not, like it happens. You could not live your life not being able to make judgments. So you're going to see someone and you're going to make a judgment. And what I ask us to do is, could we increase the likelihood that the judgments are in our favor by taking into account very specific elements during a Zoom call? If someone were to come to your office and get ready to present to you, or if you were to invite someone to your office to say, hey, I'm getting ready to sell a premium client on a tax plan, or they're my ideal client and they've agreed to come and meet me in my office, would you let your office just look like a bomb went off and there's paper everywhere? And no, of course not. It doesn't. You would take the time to clean it up. Now that might sound obvious, but what I want to kind of point out is, why is Tyler in a t-shirt right now, right? Tyler's never in a t-shirt for any reason, but it's meant to give you a lesson. Like if I showed up like this all the time, would you think professional or would you think marketing bro? So what I need to do is I need to get my cape, right? I need to literally get my cape. I got to put my cape on because there is a certain image that is associated when you wear a blazer. And I want that image as a part of everything that I do. You will never see me outside of that example without a blazer on, ever, for any reason. Now, does this not automatically feel like a different type of call? Of course it does. But I'm wearing a t-shirt under this. I'm not wearing my blazer all day. I'm on it for specific things, right? You put your costume, so to speak, on your cape, your superhero cape, and you get ready to save the world. The next thing I want to make you guys aware of is it's your background. And it's been painful to me that this plant has been knocked over. And I use this as like a very small example, is that there are tiny details that you may not notice. Marine's laughing. She probably didn't even notice I knocked the plant over. But there are all these little things that will add up. And it's like, well, does that guy really care about his plants? It's like, of course I care about my plants. I use it as an example. It's been hurting me. It's been hurting the plant. And so I come over here and voila, it's a detail, but a detail matters. Details matter in this type of context because, again, they're going to be split-second decisions that may or may not be in your favor. But if you just take a little bit of time, set it up once, whatever your background is, it'll look really sharp. And then all of a sudden, you are increasing trust. If you're increasing trust, you're increasing the likelihood that somebody's going to buy from you. Again, it's not rocket science. If you have certain elements in place, people trust you more. Outfit, background, lighting. I'm right next to my window here, right? But if I were to be with my back against it, it's probably hard to see, but I would not have the light on my face. I also have another light over my computer. Lighting is critical. So again, just to recap, your background, treat it almost like a stage, right? Like you're here to, I don't want to say act, but it's the best analogy to be able to get what I want across is you're here to set the stage. Your background, your clothing, lights, camera. How good can the camera be? Audio quality, right? So that's a great question from Cindy. Thank you for asking that, Cindy. So backgrounds with green screens is, in my opinion, a good trick in a pinch. So in other words, if for some reason you're in a hotel room and like it's sort of just like bleh, well, we can use a green screen. However, I go back to kind of what I just said here, which is we need the tools, we need the mic, we need the camera. And if you're going to use green screen backgrounds, you need a green screen. Like there's a thing called a web around. It's like $80, attaches to the back of your chair. And the reason I say that is that it will be distracting. And the last thing we want is distraction during a sales opportunity. If people are distracted, they're not listening to you, your value proposition, what you have to offer. It might give them a headache. Honestly, like it's cute, in my opinion. Like it's the type of thing that's like, oh, it's cute, especially if there isn't a dedicated aperture for it. If there is, you're fine. Honestly, it can look really good in that case. If it's just sort of like, well, Zoom gives me the chance to change my background. Like, I don't even know if I can do it on a webinar. I don't think you can you? Let me check really quick. Choose virtual background. So let me show you exactly what I mean. Let's see if this works. Okay. So look at how distracting this is. Like my hands are coming in and out of the picture. My hair is like sort of a part of it. It's sort of not a part of it. It's doing its best job with the setting that I have given it. But if I went upstairs and grabbed my green screen and brought it down here, it would look different. And so I just ask you to keep in mind, like, is this distracting? Yes. Is it better for me to just like have a blank background, even just a white wall, than it is for what you just saw? Yes. So again, great question, Cindy, but in my opinion, virtual backgrounds or choosing your background only if you have the corresponding tool that makes it actually reliable, then it can be cool. And I'll just give you guys another cool little tip or trick that I found to be very, very useful. So Mark Alon, a very successful client of ours from the 100K challenge, and he's been investing in his business for a long time. So I'm not here to take success from Mark's business at all. Mark has been hustling and working his butt off for decades, really led in cloud computing, but he showed me a cool trick, specifically the web around. But then he said, well, one of the things we would do, Tyler, is we would take not our logo as a background, but we would take our prospective client's logo as a background. And so that's a really cool, like subliminal trick, right? Is essentially the idea that like, we're already a part of your team, right? Like I'm already a part of insert prospective client's logo behind you. And they're just like, oh, wow, that's really cool. How'd you do that? Or wow, most people don't know these things. They don't even know you can choose a virtual background on Zoom. They have no idea. None. And then they show up, you look super sharp, you got your blazer on, I'm going to get into techniques in a second, but you're just, and then they got the logo behind you and they're just like, oh man, you're that much further ahead of the next accountant. And if you talk about value pricing, value billing, you're essentially trying to get a higher price for an intangible, something they don't have control over yet. So all of the things that increase the likelihood that they say, you know what, I'm willing to spend double or triple or 5 times the amount that an hourly person would have cost me, because what are the reasons? What are the reasons? And we're going to talk more about that as the week goes on. But one of the major reasons is the intangibles. And the intangibles are the things that you actually control. And if you control them and you think about them, you go, does this look like the way I want it to? Do I look the way I should? Does the camera reflect the way it ought to? And how's the lighting? How's the microphone? How's the props, right? Like, do you want to use a prop? I don't know. But if you treat it sort of like a play, all of a sudden you start thinking about your sales presentation significantly differently. And that's part of what I want to do, is like just get you guys to think a little bit differently, because then all of a sudden it leads to very big things down the road. Okay. So, all right, number three. All right, the top 3 techniques for video calls. So I have 3 techniques that I really like to use, and I actually developed these myself. No one ever showed these to me. They're just things that I found working by testing them and trying to keep people engaged and again, analyzing situations. One last thing before we move on. One last thing. This is recording. I record everything on Zoom. Why? Because I can review it. I can study myself. I can analyze my own conversations and go, didn't have the tone it wanted. Could have been a little bit sharper here. But this didn't come across, when I'm hearing myself speak, as opposed to simply speaking, you are able to reflect. on how it came across. And then you get to also analyze the way you look, the way they look. And it's a really cool experience. So again, just one last thing on Zoom is always set it to automatically record no matter what. And then I'll share with you my 3 techniques. Okay. So are you guys ready for this technique? There it was. And so what I basically did is I looked around as if there was if we had to like get in close, right? How many times have, if this goes back to like juvenile, like high school, and it's just like, you and your buddies all looking around, it's just like, it's like, and so what I'm doing, and this is one of the ones I would do for like, if I was talking about like a tax saving strategy, I just one quick glance over the shoulder and just one the other way, and then lean in a little bit. And now their attention is, you just sucked it up. And then you just drop your voice a little bit. So that's your technique. That's number 1. And I call that the look around secret. You look around like you got a big secret that nobody can know. You lean in a little bit, you drop your voice, and let them in on it. I don't know if you know about the savings in S Corp, right? Boop, boop, boop. Okay. So did you guys understand what I had to say there? Like, was it clear what I was trying to explain to you? Yeah? That's my second technique. It's known as the happy yes. And what I'm doing here is, if I'm nodding my head, what do you normally just want to do? I bet a couple of you are just not even like intentionally, like you just, maybe just for a quick second, you just like, maybe didn't even realize it. But what I'm doing here is I'm subliminally, not even subliminally, like I'm clear as day being like, yes, right? Like, yes. And it's things that I would naturally want someone to agree to. Like, did you see the value of what I just shared with you? But it's a happy yes. It's not like, did you see the value of what I just shared with you? Right? Look at my mouth. Look at my tone. Look at my body language. Look at my eyes. Did you just understand what I just shared with you? It's a happy yes. Like, there's no way, there's a very little chance, very small chance that someone's going to go like this. Oh, no. And if they do, it's like, I don't want to work with you anyway. You're a grump. You're a grouch. Get on out of here, right? I got other stuff to do. So then it really comes down to just like, I shared one technique over here, and I shared another technique over here. And the question is, what's that third technique, Tyler? My conductor hands, right? It's the ability to use your body, your hands, as a way to create an atmosphere that someone is enjoying, it's sharing, it's using your space. There's a cool YouTube channel, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but essentially it's like, I think it's like persuasion techniques maybe, I'm not sure, but they break down sort of like why certain people are very persuasive. And one of the most common themes is they will fill the space that they are capable of filling without being like, but they are comfortable in their surroundings. And so when you use the space that's around you, you become more magnetic. Don't ask me why. It's painfully true. Tony Robbins, he's great at that, right? Anytime someone raises their hands above their arms, right? Like, what does this naturally just sort of like indicate? It's almost like weird. It's attention grabbing. Like a lot of comedians, when they get ready to make the punchline of a joke, they'll go like this. And it'll make it funnier because it's weird to watch someone put their hands above their head and be in a very like, erratic state. So the point from this is that your hands, we often just like, we're like this, or we don't really even have our camera well functioned. We might have it like this. And it's like, I've literally had Zoom calls with people like this. And it's like, could you please tilt your camera down just a little bit so that we can have a little bit of a better experience with one another. And some people don't even reflect on the fact that I'm just like staring at the top half of their head. And so the reason that's important is that all of this is physiology. And it's hard to have physiology over the phone. And it's much easier to have it with a video call, as long as you're aware of the fact that you can use your hands. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to use my hands to do one specific thing. Okay. That's like an example based, right? So I will say, over here, we have your typical outsourced CFO or your typical in-house CFO, and they're going to cost you about $100,000, right? At least. And they're also going to most likely want an in-house bookkeeper or to pay for a bookkeeping service. So you've got your bookkeeper over here, $40,000 a year. You've got your CFO over here, $100,000 a year. But what if we could meet somewhere in the middle? Like, what if we could combine the value of the CFO and the cost savings of the bookkeeper and get them under one roof? Right? Who's the roof now? I'm the roof. You're the roof. And they go, and so now it's like, you're essentially the happy middle ground between really spending and hiring and training a CFO. I don't even know how to do that, right? And the bookkeeper, I know it's important, but do I need them to do more than just do the books and answer the phone? I want the value of the CFO, but I also want the value of the book, right? So the idea here is that you can create very simple examples that guide someone's thoughts by simply having a dichotomy of yes, over here, the middle path. Most people want the middle path, right? Value. They want value. You offer value. And the key here is how well can you explain the differences between what they could choose and how ultimately you are the right path. Did I do enough conductor hands here, guys? So those are my 3 techniques, and I'm going to just do a quick recap here. Why use video calls at all? More feedback. More feedback for you, more feedback of how your clients operate or your prospective clients operate. Review that information. It's super, super powerful. Number 2, how to use it for your advantage. Treat it like it's a theater production. I'm the theater, right? Any Arrested Development fans? So theater, right? You're going to want to be part of a set. It's a set. Lighting, audio, costume, camera, backdrop. It's pretty much your 5. You hit those 5, boop, 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 boop. When someone gets ready to make a split judgment of you, it's much more likely to be in your favor. And those judgments are going to happen whether we like it or not. Third and final thing, techniques. Techniques. I'm not too sure I'm going to share my over-the-shoulder technique again. Do you know what I mean? Happy yes. Smiling, happy yes, right? And then, of course, our conductor hands. So I hope you guys have enjoyed today's block party on sales, our bonanza. And I will see you tomorrow. Date and times are published in the event. If you want to join them on the left, I think I've got another question from Shanita. Do you suggest doing all or most sales calls via video? Shanita, so one of the things and I mentioned this earlier, you may have missed it, but one of the things that I realized is that it is almost impossible for me to go back to strictly a phone environment. I will do it if it's the only option. Someone might not have video capability, but it's harder. And I don't know about you, but I like making my sales processes as easy as possible. And once you get used to this medium, and I admit it takes a little bit of time, it's a little bit weird at first. I get those things, but we're going to talk about how to make it not like that over the next few days. But once you get used to it, until they create like a VR selling environment that's like common, this is the best thing. This is incredible. It builds trust super fast. I would only not do it if it was not possible.